Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity, a show about weirdos. With your hosts, John Fahey, Aaron Peter, and Matt Brousseau.
Buck's ripping everybody off.
I might as well run the whole country while I'm at it.
I mean, that's the thing.
I can run this family.
Yeah,
I can't control my family, but I try to take care of them, but they're all fucking psychos.
They're drinking all my cologne.
Yeah.
So, but Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony are still with her. Anthony, they're even okay with prostitution. Anthony says, "I'll take by the hand every prostitute I can find who seeks to escape the inequalities of the law, which places all womanhood at the mercy of manhood."
Mm-hmm.
But then Roxy accuses Colonel Blood of communism. And as this is happening, the French Revolution is going on in the United States. There's a huge fear of communism and what's happening in the French Revolution coming over there. And then right after this, Colonel Blood is hit with a chair by Utica. And then
The French Revolution or the Russian Revolution?
French Revolution.
The second French Revolution.
Yes, one of many. You know?
Right.
Colonel Blood is hit with a chair by Utica. She's arrested. Then she's arrested 3 more times on charges of drunkenness and soliciting men. Then that Dr. Spar, then he's found dead in the house.
Oh boy.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. So then the AWSA disavows any association with her and her ideas. She writes an editorial saying, "Hey, I know a lot of stuff, ladies. Those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones."
Oh, yes. And?
Oh my God, this is like Trump Twitter so hard.
And then she starts working with a man named Theodore Tilton,
Tilton.
which you might remember from the intro to the last episode where I talk about Henry Ward Beecher and sleeping with Lib Tilton.
Yes.
And his best friend was Theodore Tilton.
Oh.
And Theodore Tilton was a famous newspaper man at the time. And he starts working with Victoria and rewriting her speeches to make them more populous. And so she's still making all of her speeches. She's still very popular. But now she's getting intertwined with Tilton. And she knows what happened with Beecher and Lib Tilton. And that's not quite public yet. That's all gossip. But meanwhile, all of the Beechers know that she knows because she talked to Catherine. And Harriet Beecher Stowe writes a book called My Wife and I, in which there's this temptress named Audacia Daguerreas. And this woman is a newspaper woman and a seductress.
Yeah.
And she writes, to have such a woman around makes one ashamed of one's sex.
Oh, God.
But Victoria doesn't stop. September 20th, 1871, she makes this grand speech in front of 3,000 people under the banner Victoria C. Woodhull, the principles of sexual freedom, free love, marriage, divorce, and prostitution.
Laying it all out, dude.
Big ass banner.
Hell yeah.
And 3,000 people's a lot.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
And she's nervous at first again, and then again, the spirits. She feels the spirits, and she makes this incredible fiery speech, and she says, "The wiseacres stop and tell us that everybody must not pursue happiness in his or her own way. I say they're wrong. They're just humbugging you. What I believe to be the truth, I endeavor to practice, and in advocating it, permit me to say I shall speak so plainly that none may complain that I did not make myself clear. Marriage must consist of love or of law. People may be married by law. They also may be married by love and lack of sanction of law. Law cannot compel two to love. This is a matter that concerns these two and no other living soul has any right to say aye, yes, or no. Whether there is no love as a basis of marriage, there should be no marriage." She said, I do not care where it is that sexual commerce results from the dominant power of one sex over the other, compelling him or her submission against the instincts of love. And where hate or disgust is present, whether it be gilded places of Fifth Avenue or in the lowliest, pearliest of Green Street, there is prostitution, and all the law that 1,000 state assemblies may pass cannot make it otherwise. And as she's making this speech, the crowd is with her, and then suddenly there's this hissing from a box to the above her. And then people say, "Hurrah, hurrah!" They get rid of the hissing, and then the hissing gets louder, and the hissing gets louder. And then, fueled by laudanum and alcohol, Utica stands up.
That bitch.
And she says, to response to all this free love, she says, how would you feel if you didn't know who your father was? Victoria just brushes her off, and she keeps going again. And then Utica stands up again and starts yelling more and more. And they say, "Who is that woman?" And Utica says, "I am her sister." And then someone in the crowd yells, "Miss Woodhull, are you a free lover?" And she rips off the white rose she would that was tied around her neck. And she says, "Yes, I'm a free lover." And the crowd has no idea what to do with this. And suddenly her dramatic speech, which was going to be the speech of all speeches, has been completely thrown off. And the next day in the newspaper, the headlines are, "Died of Free Love, the Women's Suffrage Movement."
Oh my God. So that's where you see like the difference in approach between, I think it was the AWSA and the
NWSA.
So one has the big ask and hope that you get one or two of those things, but you risk derailing the whole movement based on one of those things being unpopular. And then the other is just the sole focus, women's suffrage.
Well, it's like that thing where, they say that, there's like a T junction that is left to right, but there's also an up and down, right? So the furthest right you can go would, if you go top, it's total libertarianism and stay off my lawn,
right, and
I don't give a shit. And then the bottom is total fascism and controlling everything. And then you go over to the left, and it's still fascism, but like communist, whatever. And then like up again, and it's, free, liberal, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But it seems like with the suffrage movement, there was that same type of thing where it was like, it's either the movement that is like, do not drink and let us vote, or let us do whatever we want sexually. Do not enslave us through marriage.
Right, it's the Malcolm X
and let us,
MLK.
Right. There's always
the two sides kind of.
I always wonder who the Gandhi. Who was there a Gandhi who was like different from Gandhi?
Gandhi was that dude who's like, I want to hang out with 12 girls and not jerk off. That was his deal.
I don't want my wife to get this life-saving medicine.
Yeah,
but then I get sick, but then I want it.
Yeah, but I mean,
Gandhi,
so that was like, that's what the kind of corollary I have with the suffrage movement. It was like the thing. It was like the height of what we would consider nagging. Versus the polar opposite.
Right. Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't give a fuck what you do, just leave me alone as a woman.
Right. Yeah.
Right? The other one being like, let me vote and you can't drink.
Yeah.
And some of them also were like, and also I'm going to be a sister wife in Utah. And people were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So, I mean, some of the sister wives, like the polygamy movement in Utah, were so entrenched in the suffrage movement. Like some of the biggest stars were like, I believe in the woman's right to vote, and probably because of how the household shook out in a polygamist environment, where they were like, well, there's fucking 4 women, 5 women, and 1 man.
Right.
Why am I not voting?
Right.
Right.
And but then you also have kind of that notion that, women, like, I don't know what the number is, but married women overwhelmingly vote in line with their husbands, or at least say they do. And so then you can make the argument that, oh, well, then you're going to have 1 man controlling the vote of 5 sister wives.
Right.
And it's 1 man.
But it wasn't that way. It seemed to be a more sexually liberated thing in the thing of like, I see him like on Saturdays. I've got my own mind, you know. He's got so many wives that, I have my own ideas, and
we're influencing him.
And yeah, I mean, I definitely, I know so many married couples years in that are like, yeah, we go to the polls and we cancel each other out. She's Republican, I'm Democrat, and blah, blah, blah. And like, women still to this day are the more reliable voters in total, aren't they?
Probably, I believe so, yeah.
Reliable in what way?
They always vote more than men in elections, I believe.
I think that's totally.
Is that not?
I think that's totally
incorrect
off.
at all.
Yeah, I think like it's overwhelmingly white males who are doing the voting.
Doing the voting, really?
Yeah.
I always thought women were more reliable voters than men.
I think they're more reliable.
Like they come out to the polls more. I mean, like there was really
they're better
more
dressed.
Yeah.
Like basically, like the idea was,
I trust them with kids.
I always heard that if you won women's vote, you'd win the election.
That's true.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's true. I mean, We don't know. We're talking out of school. We should probably look this up.
Yeah.
So the papers wrote like she said violent things, and to her she says, "I'm a free lover. In order to preach the doctrine, you must live the life." And because all of these men who come out against her, she's like, "You're sleeping with other women.
Yeah.
You're already doing it.
You're already free lovers."
Right.
And December 18th, so the public is she's starting to lose the general public. In December 1871, Stephen Pearl Andrews convinces her to lead a parade that's demonstrating against the French government's execution of Louis Nathaniel Roussel for his role in the Paris Commune. The Paris Commune ran the French government for about a month in 1871.
Mm-hmm.
And when the new government took over, they tried to execute everybody. They caught him. They executed him. And this parade consisted of various socialist immigrant groups, Polish, Italian, a black Civil War drum corps. And the crowd
Is it drum line?
could not, no. The crowd just couldn't, the crowd in New York could not handle it. And Victoria said she had a vision where Bonaparte warned her there would be a riot of the most fearful characters. So she diverts the crowd another route.
There'd be a riot in a ferocious fashion.
But I mean, if she was campaigning for free love too, why would they not think that she was actually involved in it? Like she had it on a banner behind herself. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's one of those things where she's saying we have the right to do this, but she's not stating that I do this.
Right, like cannabis should be legal, but I'm no pothead.
Yeah, I don't smoke. It's not me.
So I think
Yeah.
it's the principle and the character of the person advocating for the principle, right? Like,
right.
Legalization is going to be probably like one of the big things in 2020, or at least the midterms after or whatever.
Yeah.
And you could probably, I guess you could probably liken it to the free love thing in this situation, that I bet you a lot of voters would be in favor of legalizing weed, but not necessarily want their president
to
be smoking it regularly.
Or their kid or what.
Exactly.
But there's some things that are surprising, right? That we don't even see even now with all the polling and everything that goes on, right? Because it's like, what questions are you asking? That you don't see things coming. Like, you wouldn't see that somebody that's an avowed, open socialist would do so well in elections.
Right.
And people coming to terms with being like, oh yeah, fuck, I didn't even understand that was an option, because we never talked about it until one guy waded into the race,
right,
and was just like, yeah, we need to take money from the top and put it down at the bottom. Like, it's so antithetical to American thought that once somebody said it, everybody was surprised how much everybody agreed with it. So, like,
but he's
her saying the same things with all of this shit about free love and radical.
You're all doing it. You're doing it anyways.
You're
I'm just
just
saying it.
Sometimes just saying it is so radical enough
and that's what it was. Yeah. But again, Bernie couldn't beat an established Democrat.
Yes. Totally.
And so as good as well as he did, it still wasn't enough over the things people know. It was the unknown for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Right, and also, shadiness.
Certainly. Okay, so 1872, year of the election. She's recognizing that her support is not as strong as it used to be. All of these scandals. She's a free lover. And so she puts together a list of all of the adulterous men and women she's learned, and she says,
Here you go.
I need money for my campaign, so if I don't get it, I will start publishing.
Here comes the list.
Uh-huh.
Every day that goes by that I don't hit my GoFundMe goal, another name drops.
But she also she's still making her speeches. She goes to the NWSA, and she wants the People's Party to combine with the NWSA and nominate her for president. The people in the NWSA, well, after she makes this speech for this amendment, they agree. Everybody says, or not everybody, but enough people say yay to make it happen. Susan B. Anthony says it doesn't count because the People's Party are not members of the NWSA, so she doesn't get their nomination. A few days later, she renames the People's Party to the Equal Rights Party. She gives a major speech to them, and she's officially nominated by them for President of the United States. She chooses Frederick Douglass as her running mate.
No
Damn!
shit.
He later says, I never heard of this. But he never formally asked for his name not to be removed.
Right. I'll take it. Shit.
Try it out.
I wasn't even thinking about it, but sure.
Yeah. No, I'm on it. Is it doing good? No, I'm not. Is it doing good? No.
I got that Mr. Glass haircut. How do I look?
Glass in theaters everywhere right now.
Big sponsor of the show.
Yeah.
And she does this at Apollo Hall, and it's very well received.
Apollo Hall.
Apollo Hall.
Daphne Apollo.
And but of course, again, this official nomination only brings more publicity. And soon, Thomas Nast, the famous, brilliant political cartoonist, man who helped bring down Boss Tweed with his cartoons, he draws a picture of her as Mrs. Satan.
Mrs. Satan?
And he writes, he has the back of the cartoon is a mother carrying a drunken man and a couple of children on her back. And Victoria is dressed up as Satan with a sign saying, "Be saved by free love." And Thomas Nast writes, Get thee behind me, Mrs. Satan."
A Jesus quote.
Yes.
But
it's a very
damn.
It's a very good cartoon.
Yeah.
Let me get behind you, Satan, so I can milk that little leg back there.
But because of this publicity, she's now, over and over again, she's now seen as someone to be avoided. And the lease on their brownstone is canceled.
Fuck.
They moved to a new house. This new house has twice monthly psych meetings where spiritualism, free love, and utopian world government are discussed. While there, Utica openly solicits men.
Oh, what?
There's another scandal when the chancellor to the Council of Spain shows up to the house and he sees a 15-year-old girl crying as she's pregnant. She's Polly's daughter, and Polly was the woman who held the baby for 2 days. That ex-husband is now the lieutenant governor of Kansas. This daughter is sent there to live with him instead. She dies of complications of childbirth.
Jesus.
Then Canning Woodhull, in order to get him off the morphine, they cut the morphine out of his life. He dies.
Yeah. You got to keep the life elixir. It's not called that for nothing.
They cut the morphine off, so does he go into... Oftentimes, you drink. That's when
no, I'm sure it's just, was it remission?
No, withdrawals. So
Withdrawals.
you don't die from heroin or morphine withdrawals.
You would die from not taking it.
No, you die. Most people, they die because they drink to get rid of the bad feeling.
That might have been it.
Often, that's how Amy Winehouse died.
Really?
She died from booze.
Wow.
Because she was getting clean. I don't know about the getting clean part, but heroin is non-toxic.
Yeah.
Like it usually die from ODing.
It's the cleanest drug there is.
You ever fuck with opiates, Joe? It feels like a warm hug. So yeah, that's the thing. Sorry to just go on a drug rant.
Do it.
I put down my cat with fentanyl. I took the rest, man. I was fucked up.
Pretty good though. Yeah, that's the thing with heroin, morphine, opiates in general, is that they're not toxic to you. Like,
well, let's just say if you have like the cleanest heroin in the world, you can be like kind of like, adverse free addicted for like all of your life.
If you can reliably dose, you can be a functioning addict. Yeah. But, you are basically just medicating your addiction at that point and not getting high anymore. You're just avoiding the sick.
Right. But if you get off it and you start hitting the Mad Dog 2020.
Yeah. Because you're trying to get rid of how bad it feels to come down.
Right.
You can drink yourself to death.
Yeah.
The other way you die from heroin is ODing, where you stop breathing in your sleep.
Right.
And that's how you die. But anyways, shoot heroin, do whatever you want, kids. Free love.
It's free love.
I had to clean heroin's name up out of this gutter trash. Utica and all these child laborers.
Why are they still living with Utica after she ruined that speech, man?
Like, what's the ride home like?
Yeah.
Well, probably separate carriages, but...
I mean, you walk into the same room and you see the fucking portrait of Colonel Mustard in the coat room.
And you still are, like, having a conversation with a fucking...
You totally fucked up my speech, Utica!
Yeah, you're having a conversation with, like, a head of state, and then Utica shoots her head over the banister like, "You want some sugar upstairs, sweetheart? Get the fuck out of here, Utica!"
Go drink the Jacquard! Jacquard Noir!
Like, it's so insane. Like, get away from these people, for the love of God.
You're all out of Old Spice. I'm not drunk enough yet. Send somebody to the corner store, because I'm trying to get lit.
Pick up some Axe spray.
I'm not going to ask you again.
So scandal upon scandal. Suddenly, even the NWSA doesn't want anything to do with her. And so she's still making speeches to now free love and groups, and so she's trying to still make free love and spiritualism a thing.
Push the agenda.
So for one of these speeches, it's going to be a grand speech to a free love group. She asks Henry Ward Beecher to make a speech saying, hey, she's not a bad person. Free love is okay. Knowing what she knows about him. And he wavers and doesn't give a yes or a no, and then he doesn't show up. And so in her speech, she starts naming names.
What?
And she's given a speech to hundreds, thousands?
A couple thousand, maybe 1,000.
Okay, it's a lot of people.
And so she's naming names of all of these powerful hypocrites that she knows. And
Let me tell you about this one motherfucker.
Prostate like a grapefruit.
And so everybody's had turned on her at this point, and she's feeling hounded. So now she goes to her paper, Woodhull and Chafflin Weekly, and she publishes Beecher's Affair.
The names.
She publishes Beecher's Affair with Lib Tilton.
Fucking A.
And she also publishes something else, the story of the infamous French Ball of 1869.
Oh, it sounds like an orgy, Matt.
The infamous French Ball of 1869 was attended by, quote, 3,000 of the best men and 4,000 of the worst women in New York.
Damn.
Uh-huh. And so they talk about how, okay, well, let me see. This is from a different paper. According to account in the World, I think it was like New York World, 4 days after the ball, one of the women is caught up by the crowd and tossed bodily into a proscenium box, where she is dragged by half a dozen brutes in over the sill and furniture in such a manner as to disarrange as much as possible what small vestige of raiment there is on her. The feat awakens general merriment. Presently, the trick is repeated on the other side. A young woman, rather pretty and dressed in long skirts, is thrown up and falls back into the arms of the crowd, who turns her over, envelope her head in her own skirts, and toss her again up, temporarily denuded. A heavier woman than the rest is thrown out of the box and falls heavily on the floor.
So they're doing a involuntary mosh pit.
Yeah.
And then they throw a fat girl over a railing.
And they name a couple names of a couple rich men who accompanied two fresh-faced young schoolgirls, perhaps 15 or 16.
Yikes.
And so they talk about this ball, and they talk about Beecher, and they start naming names, and now the rich come down.
Really?
And
Shots fired.
they reach out to a man named Anthony Comstock. Anthony Comstock was
an assassin.
of sorts.
It's a fixer.
He dedicated the last half of his life to stamp out vice.
Oh,
Yes.
yikes.
And he was even appointed.
Comstock was the guy who's like a predecessor to the guy who would eventually run the DEA or start
really?
the DEA. Yeah, this guy was one of those guys.
So it's like how the Pinkertons were the predecessors to the FBI. This guy was like the predecessors to the
right,
DEA.
and he's probably worth a profile, but he would collect sex objects and
Look how
pornography.
gross it is. I'm gonna keep it away in my bedroom.
And he bragged about how many books he burned, and he bragged about how many people committed suicide rather than being arrested for pornography.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, Comstock. I've heard of Comstock. The guy's a monster.
That is such a nightmare, man.
Yeah, and he was around this time he was named the president of the New York Society for Suppression of Vice, and so he did very Guthrie-esque. What he did is he took one of these newsletters, and he mailed it to himself in another state, and then he had them
Federal
arrested
law.
for sending obscenity across state lines.
Oh, God. Wow.
Even though he did it.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Because they wrote it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So they're arrested, they're thrown in jail, and they're not allowed to testify because they're women.
How many of them?
Well, you have to have
Tennessee and
testes.
Victoria.
Tennessee and Victoria, right.
They're thrown in jail, and they're not allowed to testify for themselves because they're women.
Right.
And the judge, he even tells the jury, he says, you should find them guilty. And they're thrown into the Tombs, which is the Hall of Justice on Center Street in New York. It's one of the worst prisons to be in at the time.
Jesus Christ.
And they pay their bail, and they get out, and they're running out of money, and they break into their presses were shut down, and they break in, and they put out another newspaper saying that they're innocent.
Jesus, that's crazy. That's crazy.
They go to court again and again, and eventually the jury finds them not guilty, and the judge tears into the jury.
You dumb motherfucker!
Yeah, I told you.
Were you paying attention?
Joe, do you know how many women were on this jury?
The judge. No, this is literally what the judge says. This is the most outrageous verdict ever recorded. It is shameful and infamous. I am ashamed of the jury.
She put the jury on trial. That is so good. That's so good.
But all of this, through all of these legal fights and all of the bail, they're out of money. Everything they've ever earned is gone.
To the legal system.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Well, and also, I mean, imagine,
Yeah, Buck's tearing it up, sure.
Sending,
Polly and fucking...
Yeah, you've got your family of moochers, and then you've got a newspaper that is surely not turning a profit. The newspapers...
Their newspaper was...
Really?
One of the hottest newspapers of the day.
No shit.
Which is why they had to get it shut down, because they couldn't have people reading these things.
So they were selling papers.
Wow. The Beecher Tilton paper was one of the best-selling papers.
I assumed it was almost like pure propaganda.
No.
After a certain point. And not in a bad way, but just like a publicity thing.
Was there a lot of free love shit in that?
Yeah, absolutely. Free love, spiritualism, they would argue the things they believed in.
Right.
Damn.
But it was still a money-making endeavor.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the headline is people
And running for president.
People fucking everybody.
Well, remember when Colonel Blood first moved to New York, he started working for his cousin's, his brother's newspaper in New Jersey.
Yes.
And they brought that guy in to run their paper, and so they actually knew how to run a paper.
Sure.
And it was a success. It was a huge paper for its day. It was called The Weekly. People just say The Weekly because everybody knew what that meant.
Damn.
And so after all of this,
legal fees, running for president. Running for president's expensive.
It is, yeah.
Especially if you're a woman, it's you only get 70 cents on the.
And so now they're out of money. She's able to make some small speeches here and there on spiritualism, but she resigns from the Grand Spiritualism Society at the time, saying, and at one point she,
even the spirits stopped talking to her.
Well, at one point she's basically almost in a coma for a month, and they think she's going to die, and then the spirit revives her, and
she got sick before too, right?
Yeah, she, sometimes it was convenient. It seemed,
Sure.
But her and Blood officially depart from each other. In 1877, the Commodore dies.
Damn.
And there's a fight over his will, and one of his sons, in order, because there's going to be a court case over it, he pays Victoria and Tennessee to leave the country so they can't testify. And so Victoria and Tennessee, 1877, 1878, they moved to England so they can't testify.
Damn.
There, Victoria meets John Biddulph Martin, a British banker. It takes him 6 years to convince his family that she's okay. They marry. While she's there, she starts a newsletter called The Humanitarian, and she kind of uses it to try to clean up her image. Tennessee marries a wealthy widower, and when she meets him, she says that the spirit of his dead wife told her to meet this man.
Damn.
And
Good call.
He agrees. He marries her. She becomes Lady Cook, the Viscountess of Montserrat.
Wow.
Uh-huh. And while in England, Victoria opens a school, and she promotes kindergarten education. One of the early leaders in educating the youth back then. Yeah. Still proponent of eugenics.
Yeah. Kindergarten, eugenics, straight out of Germany, both of them. Great.
And June 10th, 1927, she just lives a just kind of normal life for there. June 10th, 1927, 88, she dies in Brendan, Worcestershire, England.
Oh, yeah.
Very interesting.
Page 4, I'm reading my own notes here. But right a month before she dies, she leaves one final writing. She writes, "The deeper I delve for sure footing, the higher I reach for light, the more convinced I am that only here and there do we find an instrument capable of responding to the hungry heart's desire for truth. On the retina of our brain, the outline of truth is revealed to those attuned to the music of the spheres. Therefore, I feel well assured that whatever be the misrepresentations to which I may be subject, the events must be committed to time, who relentlessly unravels all distortions and rights all wrongs. Whoever I am, whatever I have done, belongs to the spirits.
So it's her saying, one day you'll all see that I was right. Time will tell, etc., etc. I always, when I was thinking about her, because she came up in a book that I was reading over the course of her trip.
But yeah.
No, well, she came up originally. The first I've ever heard her was in the Bill Bryson book, but then again in the book that I'm reading now, I was reading it up in the cabin, and there's some overlap with the spiritualism and technology and Mesmer and Wilhelm Reich and all this period of time of about 100 years in the U.S. where electricity was. That's neither here nor there, but she was into eugenics, right? Because of her experience with the babies in her family, right?
Right. The Byron.
Right. The toothless wonder. But she was also a proponent of free love. And this was before a time where women had reliable contraception.
Right. Well, vinegar soaked sponge was your best bet.
That was your best.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm wondering how she reconciled that. Like, was there a survival of the fittest sperm that she was thinking of?
Or was there a tacit understanding that abortion was part of?
But even then, reliable abortion was not around.
No.
And women...
It's not around now.
There's Madame Russell in New York who, infamous and was arrested for giving abortions to women.
Yeah.
And there were many Comstock bragged, about women who had killed themselves because he had discovered they were giving them abortions. They were giving abortions.
Yeah.
And so I think, I'm not entirely sure, but I got the sense that eugenics was, I'm going to be forced to take care of so many kids.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's hard enough taking care of
healthy ones.
Yeah.
Well, you're making a lot of sense.
I mean, much less
are you going to say mongoloid?
The care that they could give a kid who had to eat mush and could never speak.
Oh yeah, and would be abused and
not live a great life.
Made to work terrible hours and
in their eyes it was compassionate, right? In some ways,
it seemed to be, yes.
Right.
Yeah,
it's a lot more compassionate then than it would be now.
And it was just in vogue at the time. It was just
just
part
like
of
spiritualism. And...
Yeah. But also, I mean, the thing that's so interesting about her time is this thing of like now it's a time of great national upheaval, and we're deciding where the country's going to go, and why don't we try to just jerk it to as far a progressive thing as we can right now? Because
and maybe even if there's pushback, it'll land somewhere on the side that we want it anyways. Right?
Yeah,
if we reach far enough, right? The pendulum.
Right.
If we swing that pendulum far enough in the direction that we want to go, even though if it comes back, we'll end up somewhere where we're aiming to be. If you reach for the stars,
that's
even
the
if
thing.
you miss,
The Obama thing of whatever the arc of time is long, but bends towards justice, right?
MLK.
But you have to. He would invoke that. Obama would invoke that all the time about saying, like, I think being like pressured on like why there wasn't enough progress or whatever.
Right.
But there was, I mean, the reason it bends that way is because people try so hard
to break it,
to fucking break it in the media.
Go out there and take. I mean, because of the more the Malcolm X / Victoria Woodhull ethos of go out there and take it.
Yeah. I mean, is
it a right or is it a permission?
Right. That's the thing. Is like the like I think I've said before on the show, like the cruelest thing white people ever did to black people was making them choose between people that said, we need to walk these white people through us deserving humanity, and black people that were like, no, we need to take it right now because we're going to be dead soon. Yeah.
Yeah, and, I mean, women didn't get suffrage until 1920-something, I believe.
Yeah.
But she gave people the option of saying, well, we'll give you suffrage, but not free love. At least, right? So she pushed it.
But
she was going for broke.
She maybe pushed a little too far and gave people,
I mean, if she doesn't have...
If she doesn't have her fucked up sister...
If Utica dies of laudanum fucking...
Right.
5 years earlier.
But also, I mean, fucking... universal healthcare is now. Again, because of Bernie, it's a going for broke thing. It's like, no, we don't want any fucking tuition fees. We don't want to pay for fucking healthcare. 4 people have all of the money. Make them pay for this bullshit.
Or having a baby's at least $10,000 in the United States, while in like Finland it's like $60.
Yeah.
And so you're gonna go bankrupt having a kid? Like, what kind of? It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
You eugenicize the kid.
Well,
I mean, that's the...
Well.
You ever fuck with eugenics, Joe? You ever fuck with playing with natural selection?
Joe,
sometimes I think about it.
You ever fuck with the survival of the fittest? Like, obviously, I'd be on top of all y'all.
In a ferocious fashion, of course. If there was a fashion that I could just... There's only one word.
Joe, I'm at a loss for words.
You know how I'm quiet for both? Right now, I'm at a loss for words.
No, well, it can only be described as a ferocious fashion. That was fucking...
that was the breaking point up at the cabin.
Yes, I remember the ferocious
Critic.
Will only be described.
In the future, critics will describe the fashion in which I destroyed my opponent in one word, and that one word would be unanimously ferocious.
Joe, you know how I'm quite verbose. You know how loquacious I am, Joe. But the only word coming to mind is ferocious.
God damn it!
So dumb.
Victoria Woodhull, slut.
I wouldn't say slut.
And I mean it in the best way. I want to take that word back.
No. But I'm saying, give it.
Entrepreneur?
Give it the best meaning of the word.
Okay.
I would say sex was used with tact.
Yes, the most responsible weaponization of her sexuality. Clearly brilliant. I mean, whether or not What's His Dick helped her write the speeches, still thinking of like, well, look, it says citizens have the right to vote. It says persons and personhood. It doesn't say anything about gender in the Constitution. We already have the right to vote. I'm not going to ask you for permission for it. We already have the right. That's brilliant.
The funny thing is that in those last words that you perfectly ended with is that she doesn't speak about spirits and she doesn't speak about prophecy and she only speaks about truth.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that is the part that you're like, oh, that's what drove everything. Like, without all the scams, without all the chemicals, without all the sex, it was just like, listen, you know what's right is right.
Mm-hmm. I had to do what I had to do.
Mm-hmm. And are you going to ignore it? Yeah, you will. For a long time.
Yeah, and at each point in her life where she had an opportunity to make her life better and to make the lives of people around her better, she took it.
Yeah.
And she did whatever she could. You know, if sleeping with people meant that she could keep her family afloat, she did it.
Yeah.
Because she recognized that was the only option she had.
Yeah.
And it also meant that, if she could broadcast, her kind of, prophecy for what, humanity should become, then she would do those things too. So it was like, it wasn't just like, let's get fucking Buck and the gang in here and live high on the hog as long as we can. It was like, no, there's a fucking mission. Like, we're going somewhere.
Right, and I think, as her downfall was, in many ways, her the thing that also made her so incredible, which was she let others prove how bad they were. She said, I will believe in you until you will prove how bad you are. And so she kept letting her family come in,
right? Because
she said, this is who I am. I want to look after people. I want to take care of people. And I'm not going to throw you out because I don't trust you.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, there is that really like nobility of, I'm not going to deny your voice.
Right.
You can do whatever.
You do you.
You do whatever. If you want to use or abuse, that's up to you. Mm-hmm. But like, I'm not going to shut you up.
Right.
I mean, that there is a lot of respectable shit about that. Of just being like, that's my sister, everybody. Psycho. Yes. Do I believe in free love? Yeah, I do. It was
and I talk to spirits.
Yeah, and she didn't yell, Utica, you're fucking drunk, shut the fuck up. She
Yeah.
She could have thrown her sister under the bus.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do
And
it.
she still didn't.
Damn. Should she have?
I mean,
Who's to
probably,
say?
but
Who's to say?
No.
she was true to who she was.
Yeah, it's who she was.
True to who we'd all want to be, right? I mean, really, like, putting the agenda second to your fucking
Family?
doped up family member is like, that's a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
That's very saintly behavior.
Pretty. I can't remember where I heard of this, but it was something on the line of a prostitute who ran for president.
Yeah.
And you hear that and you're like, oh, okay. And then you look into it and
It's a whole can of worms.
the way her life intertwined with she grew up, her father was a fucking a fake life elixir, and then she met the president. It's like she
and finger blasted. Well, her sister
finger blasted
Vanderbilt, Anderson Cooper's granddad.
Yeah, and she fucking worked the prostitute houses to make a shit ton of money for her, and then for a lot of people. Her brokerage firm was incredibly successful.
Oh, yeah, her
She gave women another option that they hadn't thought maybe was available.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Right.
if you were caught up in that political fever at the time, you would think, holy shit.
we're on the verge of.
We are on the verge of utter
If only
women's liberation.
And how far did the pendulum swing back that it wasn't until the
Right.
1920s?
If only she had thrown her sister
Yeah.
under the bus, maybe women would have got to vote earlier.
Well, I mean,
yeah, but also wouldn't that be the most anti-woman thing to do?
Yeah.
No,
No, I disagree. I think it would be. I think it would be like, we're all together or we're not.
I think it was anti-woman for her sister to interrupt her sister's speech.
Right, well, it would have been anti-Victoria.
No.
Yes.
Whether or not it would have been anti-woman.
It would have been
Right.
anti-nobility. Aaron, something you could learn about in the future. That'll be all.
Shut up, Aaron. You're drunk. What?
Well, I think the sister was fucked up. No, shut up,
But she
man.
was hot, and
She was,
Her
yeah.
and Tennessee
But
were
I mean,
beautiful.
more than anything, giving Utica her out. She was probably high as a kite.
Oh, Utica was absolutely.
Of course she was.
Probably didn't even know where she was. It's not. We can't blame Utica, the
what
human being.
You know what happened? Tommy Boy happened,
Yeah.
The movie.
or Black Sheep. Black Sheep happened. That's my brother.
Drinking, snorting, smoking.
Kill Whitey. I love you guys.
How'd the speech go? You ruined it. Matt, that was an absolutely incredible profile.
A wonderful
Second
two-parter.
two-parter for you. Incredibly good stuff.
It's got everything I like: pseudoscience, drugs, hookers.
Yeah. I mean, we got really much more stupid
Prostates.
in the second part, but or in the first part, but the second part was the really the poignant, beautiful part of the profile, in my opinion. That was the real kind of coalescing of all that heaviness of the time and where it could have gone.
Yeah.
We were much more stupid in the first part when it was just loose scams and sexual proclivity.
And laudanum.
But I mean, yeah, out of all that mess, it leading to real potential change for women, it's like you're like, oh fuck, what's gonna happen? I don't know if I can joke around about this at all. It's just such a good story. That was impeccably put together.
Thanks. Wonderful.
Yeah. Big help from Barbara Goldsmith.
Shout out to Barbara Goldsmith.
Thank you, Barbara Goldsmith.
Shout out to Laudanum, big sponsor of the show.
Yeah, and it's clean, baby.
Bayer Pharmaceuticals, pure laudanum.
Let's not hype Bear.
No.
We don't want to do
They
that.
don't exist anymore. They're Monsanto.
Right. Bear Santa. Bear Santa.
Shout out to Bear Santo.
Shout out to Bear
Favorite
Santa.
gay porn star.
Now, Aaron, I think you might be coming up with a P part 2.
Yes, I'm going to be doing History of the World part number 2 of number 1.
Very exciting.
And I think we'll have that ready. We'll have that for next week.
Next week.
Great.
Yes. I'm going to say
Unless
goodnight.
you guys have anything that you want to do.
I got some bullshit, but if you're not ready for PP, then I can do bullshit.
I got so much pee-pee. cup
Wow.
runneth over.
We'll see what happens. We'll put it through the
piss test.
Yeah, the piss
The
test.
filter, and then we'll sell the filter.
I'm gonna say goodnight, everybody. My name is John Fahey.
My name is Aaron Pita. Good night.
Matt Brousseau.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.